Today we'll learn about biometric protection in SAP. Subscribe now and let's go! This is a collaboration video with realtimeNA. The channel is linked in the video description. Make sure to check it out. Before we start learning about biometric protection in SAP, we need to understand what biometrics is. Biometrics are biological or physical characteristics. They are utilized to identify individuals. The most common examples of biometrics are fingerprints, facial recognition, retina scans, or palm vein scans. Now you may ask yourself why biometric protection may be important. Well, employees share passwords, hackers hack user credentials, or co-workers look over your shoulder. Users write passwords on sticky notes, and admins have access to basically everything. And also companies have no control who's behind the keyboard, as a lot of us are working from home these days, meaning that people with bad intentions can easily take over your SAP user accounts and access or manipulate sensitive data. And exactly those kind of risks can be prevented by using biometrics in SAP. So how does biometric protection in SAP work? Biometric protection in SAP allows us to set unlimited biometric checkpoints. Thereby we can keep everyone out who is not allowed to enter specific transactions or functions. A biometric checkpoint will check the ID of a user and allow or deny access to functions in the SAP system based on the user's actual identity. There are 5 different levels of biometric protection when utilizing bioLock, which is a security solution developed for the SAP environment. The first level is the SAP logon protection. Let's imagine a user tries to enter the SAP system using the user credentials and a password or single sign-on. bioLock would now prompt the user for re-authentication by using, for instance, a fingerprint scanner, thereby accounting for at least a 2-factor authentication. Once the user puts his finger on the fingerprint scanner, the biometric characteristics of the user are extracted, encrypted, and compared with the reference template in bioLock and SAP. Based on the system parameters, the user is then allowed or denied to enter the system. The second level of protection would be a transactional lockdown. In SAP systems, users work with so-called transactions. With these transactions, users can for instance pay bills, store master data, etc. With biometric protection and bioLock, we can restrict access to these transactions, so that only authorized personnel could call the transactions in the first place. The third level of protection is to check the ID while executing functions. For instance, the user could have access to a transaction used to pay bills. If the user now wants to execute a payment, an ID check via biometrics would be required to check authorization. After the ID check using biometrics and bioLock was done, the payment execution is then either denied or granted. Then there's also dual control protection. After the first user authorized via biometrics using bioLock, a second authorized user must reconfirm the request using the same method. And only then a function like a big payment is initialized. Last but not least, using biometrics, we can enforce segregation of duty. For instance, one user could authenticate with biometrics using bioLock and create a purchase order. Another user would then be authorized to approve the purchase order after identifying with biometrics. So we can uniquely identify who gets access to what kind of functions in the SAP environment, meaning that without biometrics, there's the risk to circumvent segregation of duty. And with biometrics using bioLock, it is not possible to circumvent it. To summarize, biometrics are biological or physical characteristics utilized to identify individuals. Biometrics is very important to prevent unauthorized personnel to execute certain transactions or functions in a software environment like SAP. Utilizing biometrics and bioLock in SAP, we can protect the logon to the system, transactions, and also functions. We can ensure dual control for high volume transactions and achieve a real segregation of duty. Thanks a lot for watching this video till the end. If you like this content, please subscribe to my channel to not miss any more videos. Please make also sure to check out the videos of realtimeNA. The channel is linked in the video description. See you next time.